Hello and thank you for choosing to listen to this podcast. I did do one of these a little bit back about how the pre-release for Dragon's Maze was going down. What I'm going to talk to you today is about constructed decklist. Well, not so much decklist, like how to pick the cards you want, and it also applies to limited really. I don't want to take credit for stuff I haven't particularly put a lot of effort into myself. This is not dumbed down in a way, just try to make it sound a bit more simpler from something that Brian Wong, he was a guest speaker on Limited Resources the other week. I'll put a link in the description if you want to actually check out the full podcast. It's like 2 hours long, which is why I've condensed this down to this. If you want to learn some basic tips on how to draft or how to consider what cards to go into your constructed deck, then this might be for you. So, when drafting, the first thing you've got to remember is bread. Now, this wasn't necessarily mentioned in this podcast, but something I was aware of previous. Now, BREAD's an acronym. It stands for Bombs, Removal, Evasion, Attackers, and Defenders. So your bombs are your big guys, your creatures that are going to win you the games, your 6/6 of flyers, or your 8/8 tramplers, or whatever it is you've got. Removal is the way that you can either just cancel spells, or just get them out of the game states, as things like pacifism's classed as removal. Evasion are your guys that can attack easier, so your flyers, your unblockables, things like that, they're evasion. Guys with landmark as well, of course, including there. We've then got attackers. That's pretty much just, guys that attack. Sometimes they'll be classed as evasion or bombs, but these are just the other guys that don't have any special abilities. Normally you're 13, 14 for picking a pack, and then D is, I've heard different ways of this. I go by defenders, so the guys that you're going to be blocking, but I've also heard a lot of dirt. It's known as dirt because it's just whatever's left. So you got to remember bread. So when picking your cards, you've got to consider two things. The first of which is, what does it do for you in the game? What does the card do for you in the game? And secondly, you have to think, what does each of the cards do in the different game states? Now, I'll get back to that one, but I'll just go back to the first point. So, what does it actually do for you in the game? Now, it sounds weird, but some cards make you win more, while others make you lose less. Now, they sound very similar, but they are completely different. Cards that make you win more are the cards you want to go for. Cards that make you lose less, like Fog. Now, Fog is a green instant, I'm sure we're all aware of it. It costs a single green mana to cast, and it prevents all damage that will be dealt you this turn. So it helps you stay alive another turn, but it doesn't stop the problem. You just delay it a turn. Granted, it gives you an extra card draw, but so it gives that to your opponent as well. You just delaying the inevitable. It's not the type of card you want to be aiming for, because I know we all want to have fun when we're playing Magic, but it is a game where you're meant to aim to win at. Therefore, pick cards that help you win. Don't just pick cards that are going to stop you from losing. So it's subtle, but yeah. So the second point I was on about was game position. Now, this is going to be the main part of this talk today. The game position, I believe, can be divided into 4 parts. Now, the 4 parts are the introduction, or like the beginning stages. That's like the first 4 turns or so. There's the stalemate, when you're tied, and then there's also the winning and the losing state of the game. So going back to the introduction, it's normally the first 4 or 5 turns, and you're getting an idea of what you and your opponent are doing, because you haven't seen your opponent's deck, you don't know what he's playing, you get to see his colours, things like that. And even on your first game, even if it's a limited event, you should know what your deck is aiming to do. If you're trying to ramp. If you're just trying to get in a load of quick damage, get in a load of quick damage, get all your small dudes out there as fast as possible. At this point, you should learn who the aggressor is and who's on defense, because that should determine what type of card you play. So if you've got a choice of different spells you can cast from hand, knowing who's the aggressor and who's the defender can optimize what spells you should be casting with that knowledge. So the stalemate situation, either players can win in this state. You both normally have decent board development, so you might both have 3 or 4 creatures out, but if you're attacking each other, you're just going to trade creatures. No one's really going to get a bonus from doing that. Players will normally have no cards in hand, or possibly 1 card in hand, but you're hoping to draw. You're hoping to top deck and get a good spell, and that'll break the tie-breaking situation for you. Right, and then there's the winning and losing state. Now, these are 2 completely different states, obviously the complete opposite ends of the spectrum, but they are very similar really, because it is just who has the best board position. So not life, who has the most life's irrelevant. Even if you're on 2 life and your opponent's on 18, if you get the better board position, you can still win that match. Doesn't matter what life you're on at the end, as long as the opponent's on 0. And to get them to 0, normally you need the board state. So when you're in the winning position, you need to have as few turns remaining as possible, because the best way of winning your game is to not let them draw their bomb. The more you let them draw, the better chances they are of going to bring them back to it. So then, in contrast, to not lose, you want more card draws. Not necessarily more turns, because more turns mean they're attacking more. Draw card spells are one of the best things in Magic, and this is why, because it can help you come back from a losing game state position, and that's one of the hardest ones to bring it back from. So, when you look at cards, you need to think, how do they perform in all 4 states? Not so much when you're winning state, because when your cards are winning, all you really need to draw is a spell, hopefully a creature perhaps, maybe a burn spell, but really you shouldn't be picking cards that aren't good in that state. So, I don't know, but yeah, the best card I have used in all the states of the game. They might not be the best card in a certain state, but if they act and have a role in every game state, that's going to help you do it. But of course, remembering bread. So I'm going to look at a couple of examples here. So we've got Traitorous Instinct. It's probably up on screen unless I got particularly lazy and didn't bring it up for you. In the introduction stage, it's not really that much help. It can give you a life advantage, but not a board advantage. And as I was saying, it's all about board advantage. Who cares if you're 4 life up on turn 3, you know what I mean? Oh, turn 4, sorry, to 4 drop. It's not going to affect the game. If, however, you're in a winning condition at that time, lucky you, but we'll come to that. Stalemate's next. Now, you could use it in a stalemate situation to steal one of their creatures and combo it with maybe a sacrifice effect you have. So you actually are just removing one of their guys, obviously after you've attacked with them. But the chances of pulling that off are not that high, so it's got to be said it's not that great either in the stalemate situation. But it's got some use, possibly, depending on your deck. Now, the winning condition, right, it's a final blow, isn't it? It gives you an extra attacker and removes one of their blockers. That's what that card was designed for, to be honest. It's got no other role anywhere else. And right, imagine this. You're losing, you've got no board state. If you don't draw the... You know you've got cards in there that'll make you survive. You could draw, say, a 6/6 Flying Dragon or whatever, and you draw, and it's a Traitorous Instinct. What on earth's that done for you? Absolutely nothing. You're absolutely miserable. Does nothing for you. So that's actually quite a poor card. In contrast, however, we have Daring Skyjack. Now, he's a 2-drop for 3/1. Wow. So, imagine this on your intro. He's in your opening hand. I don't know about you guys, but I'm happy to have a 3/1 out on turn 2. That's pretty sweet. I mean, granted, they could trade, but it's not that bad, guys. In a stalemate situation, he's not immediately affecting the ball, but he's still there, because he can team up and swing, and he'll get flying, which is the evasion. Remember me talking about the evasion and bread? That's what you need. He gains flying, and that'll quickly turn a stalemate situation into a winning situation. And when you're winning, he's just another flying to quickly get in there and destroy your opponent. Spot on. And losing, now, he's not the worst draw when you're losing. Like, that 3 power can kill some of their beefy dudes. I mean, even say they had a Crowned Ceratok, and you just block that guy. Granted, you're taking 3 damage from trample, but you've just took out a 4/3. That's not too bad of a card, especially for it being a 2-drop. So this is one of my favourite cards, actually, because it is just that much use in all 4 of the game states. So then, a final example here. We're going to look at Toil and Trouble, who's one of the new ones from Dragon's Maze. So in the intro part, you could play it as just the Toil split. So it'll help out your mana curve. Imagine you play this turn 3, you had no more mana in hand, you only got big spells left. You could draw more cards. Granted, you're losing 2 life, but at this stage it doesn't really matter. But drawing that card could give you an extra land that'll help your mana curve out, or even if you have a lot of mana, it could draw you a bigger guy, so it might give you a 4-drop to play next turn. In a stalemate, again, it can give you the advantage by allowing you to draw cards. So, like, drawing cards is pretty much one of the keys to Magic, really. I mean, unless you're in a winning situation, drawing cards helps you a lot. Because in winning situations, you don't really need to draw cards. In the winning situation with this card, however, you just get the opponent to draw 2 cards. Now, that can be risky if it's not going to be a final blow. So only do this in a final blow situation. So you cast Toil and Trouble, and try and get 6 to 8 damage to the opponent there, and hopefully they're dead with that. I mean, it's a sticky situation if they're not dead when you're casting that, but it's a good card. And in a losing situation, it's not ideal due to you losing life, but card draws could help you draw your solution that you need. But as I say, if you're only on 2 or 3 life, it's not great. Yeah, so just to summarise, really, pick cards that are going to help you win, not that it's going to make you lose. Sorry, not ones that are going to prevent you from losing, because they are completely different. I mean, there is a running joke at the moment with my crowd, as there was a knockout final, and there was a normal guy that normally wins, I think, and a relative newcomer, and he'd done brilliant all day, and he went all in, and the guy just fogged him, and then next turn he went all in and won. Now, I know that just goes in an absolute contrast to what I've just been saying, but that is a rare occasion that actually pays off for you like that. And most of the time it will be, I fog this turn, and then next turn when you attack me, I'm dead anyway. So, yeah. So pick cards that help in all 4 situations, not just in a couple. Because I mean, what use is fog in introduction? What use is fog when you're winning? You know what I mean? Stalemate, it doesn't really help either, because you're not attacking into each other. Yeah, and as I said, bringing back from a losing position are the most important, as they are the hardest to get. So things like Sphinx's Revelations, because they draw cards and give you life. I mean, the life's not that important, but they've drawn the cards. Not Wrath of God, because that's not standard. Well, Wrath of God is one, but Supreme Verdict. I'm trying to think outside of Azorius here, but it's not really working. So yeah, cards like that, and don't forget your bread. That's bombs, removal, evasion, attackers, and defenders. Obviously, don't pick cards outside your colours if there's other cards there for you that can be useful, but don't forget you can hate draft as well. Now, this probably isn't going to be useful to most of you, but if you're in my local area, that's the northeast of England, I'm running a draft on the 29th of June this year, that's 2013. We're at CM Games of War. Check us out on Facebook and our website. There'll be links in the description again. It's going to be a 11 o'clock start. Sign-in will probably open about 11:45, 10 around there. We'll finish around 5, and it's only £12.50 sign-in. It is a Return to Ravnica block draft, and there will be prizes, but that's purely determined on the numbers. It'll be at least 12 boosters getting handed out, and obviously if we get more people, we'll throw in more boosters. I have no problem with that. So anyway, guys, thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in future podcasts.